It's
Good
1:30.
to go?
All right. Okay. I will call the May 14th, 2024 meeting of the Delaware County Land Reutilization Corporation, or otherwise known as Delaware County Land Bank, to order. This is a regular meeting, but it's the main purpose of this meeting is to find and approve a grant administration firm, because Diane Gunther, who's done the work for us in the past, is there's just too much activity for her to continue to do this work going forward. So we need to find a firm to take over some of the work. She's going to finish some and hand off some others. But anyway, that's the main purpose. But before we get to that, we do have a number of items on the agenda, kind of clerical administrative things. The first one is the approval of the electronic record of proceedings and minutes from April 22nd, 2024 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Next one is, and I was hoping Sandra was, Sandra or Sandra? Where should she go by? Do you know, Justin? Sandra. Okay, I was hoping Sandra would be here, and for whatever reason, she's not here today, so I apologize for that. But anyway, she has been officially appointed to be the representative to this board by the city of Delaware, and I would entertain a motion to approve her appointment to this board.
Motion to approve.
Okay,
Second.
second, Gary?
Mr. Chair, I
Yeah.
do have a question. In our bylaws, does she have to be present to be
Yeah.
seated?
I can't. I mean, that's a good question.
Frankly, I don't even think it's my opinion that the board doesn't have to take any action. I think
Oh,
Because it's
as
a
a matter
It's
of
a
habit,
statutory act, and
yeah, it's, whether you like it or not, this is the person that's
Right.
appointed. I think customarily you've acknowledged their appointment, whether it was
Okay.
Ms. Bonnie or anyone else.
That makes sense, actually,
Yeah.
so.
yeah.
So,
Not that
but
we-
if you want to acknowledge it, just so that it's in the record,
Yeah.
hey, this is the first meeting,
Good.
then I think that would,
Good point. Yeah, that is true. We can't override the city of Delaware's
yeah, I don't
appointment.
believe so, because then statutorily they have
Yeah.
the ability to appoint someone.
And
Yep.
she was unable to attend today.
Okay, she did let you know.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
good,
this was
good.
the only date she couldn't do.
Yeah, and I know Nick Langford, the new economic development director for the city, is very interested in attending these meetings. He has a lot of background in brownfield remediation projects in particular, in his previous employment in Virginia. So he is very interested in participating. He may substitute for Sandra at times, but anyway, glad to have Nick express an interest. So we will acknowledge and welcome Sandra then to the Delaware County Land Bank Board. Look forward to her participation. There is just one invoice that needs approved, and that is from Ray and Associates. What I suggest is that we approve the full amount due to Ray and Associates, but even though we haven't been billed for the final billing. The audit is complete. The draft report was sent out. Everybody hopefully got a copy of that. So I would ask we may as well, since we're meeting, may as well approve the full amount to be paid when the final invoice is presented.
move to approve the payments to the accounting firm for invoices received, and to authorize the treasurer to pay the final invoice when it's presented.
Okay. Is there a second for that? Second?
I'll second.
Okay, Michelle. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. All right, we will, I think, Ally, I think you've got the checks to.
We have them, yes.
Okay. Okay, so that takes care of that. The next one is a couple of travel reimbursements. As we talked before, we did approve for Commissioner Merrill and Representative or Administrator Bonnie to go to the Land Bank meeting in April in Akron, and by all accounts, it was a good meeting. And again, I think the association does a nice job. And so, anyway, we do have two reimbursements to approve. Commissioner Merrill's is just the
Registration.
fee.
I would ask that we do them separately, so, because I won't abstain on mine, I assume Michelle would as well.
Yeah.
So if we do them separately, I think it works
Yep.
better.
Okay, so first one would be Commissioner Merrill's. Gary's and it's $180.60, and that's everything.
It's everything, include parking in the registration, which kind of unusual.
Yeah.
And I drove the county car, so I had no other expenses.
Okay.
Motion to approve Board Member Merrill's travel expenses to the
Okay.
conference.
I'll second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I do
Opposed?
abstain.
And abstain from Gary. Okay, next one is Michelle's. Now, Michelle did stay for the full conference.
I did, yes.
So, and her reimbursement form is attached, and the reimbursement total is $758.40. And that is all-inclusive, I assume? There's nothing,
Yeah, I mean, most of the food was included
Included in
and
there.
parking and, yeah, it was a great conference.
Good,
Thank you,
good.
board, for letting me be there.
yeah. And like you mentioned, it is coming to Columbus next year.
Yes.
So that'll be good. That'll make it easier just to get down.
I think we need to make note of that and make sure we don't schedule anything that week and try to clear our
Yeah.
calendars. I think it'd be good if we all go to that one.
I agree, I think it would,
And again, I, just for the record, and we talked about before the meeting started, I thought they did an outstanding job. Again, I've been to a lot bigger conferences that weren't nearly as well handled as this one was, and I was disappointed I couldn't stay for all 3 days, but what I was there for was outstanding.
mhm.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to reimburse Michelle for the $758.40.
So moved.
Second?
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I'll abstain.
Michelle abstain? Okay. All right, now we're on to the grant administration firm. As I mentioned before, the main purpose of today's meeting is to get a new firm selected. We did, I want to thank Justin for his work in gathering these quotes. We did go out and get 3 quotes from good firms. And Justin's done a lot of legwork on that, so at this point, I will turn it over to Justin to kind of walk through the proposals, and we can move forward after that.
Great, thanks, Commissioners. Justin Avi, Director of Finance. So as Commissioner Benton mentioned earlier, Diane Gunther, who's been providing the grant administrative services, she just doesn't have the resources to do it anymore. So Commissioner Benton asked me to reach out to local firms to see if they have the resources and provide proposals for what their cost would be. The first one I reached out to was Gandy and Associates. They're based out of Kilbourne here locally, and they're working with the county on the Lead Safe grant. And then I did get contact information from Commissioner Merrill and Michelle from vendors that you met at the conference a couple weeks ago. Those other 2 firms were CT Consultants and Civil and Environmental Consultants. What I did is I had a conference call with each firm, gave an overview of the Land Bank Board, and then sent them sample reports as to the application process that Diane had developed, along with the monthly reporting updates, and then a schedule of where all the grants are at. The 3, I did a ranking on the proposals, one just based on simple cost, and then I myself did a ranking on the quality of the evaluation. Based on the overall costs, CT Consultants was the lowest with a $60,000 bid, and they would charge $30,000 to administer each grant. The second bid or proposal was from Civil and Environmental Consultants. Excuse me, their quote is $51,000 to administer the demo grants, and then $31,500 for the brownfield grants. And then the last, the highest proposal was from Gandy and Associates. Their quote was for $37,500 for the demo grant, and then $75,000 for the brownfield. So as a total ranking again, CT Consultants total proposal was $60,000. Civil and Environmental was for $82,500, and then Gandy and Associates was for $112,500. Just looking at the ranking, just my personal opinion of the quality of the evaluations, I found that Civil and Environmental Consultants was probably the highest quality. The second was Gandy and Associates, and the third was CT Consultants. So again, I just try to provide 2 different criteria. One thing I will mention, with whatever contract is authorized, I talked with Scott Gordon last week. We'd have 2 contracts with whoever vendor selected. One contract for the brownfield grant, one for the demo. And I provided Scott with a sample of our standardized agreement that Eric had developed that we've used. The other item too is we're gonna need to amend the budget for this year for this service. So for whatever the contract amount is, we just have to make a budget amendment.
Yep.
So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Good. Again, Justin, thank you.
Sure.
And of course, thank you to Diane. I think one thing I've learned is Diane was doing a great job, but we were also getting a financial bargain compared to the rates we have to pay to these firms. And again, she did a great job, and it was much cheaper than these firms, but, you know, there's only so much bandwidth there, and this program's grown quite a bit, which is good, because we're dealing with more problem properties, but, so anyway, regardless which of the three, it's gonna be a significant increase in cost, but, you know, the silver lining is that we probably will get most of that cost back as part of administering these grants, because we're allowed to recoup the grant administration costs. So, anyway, comments, observations. I think Justin summarized it very well, and again, thank you.
I have a couple questions. So for these firms, I would assume they would be the direct contact for the applicants. I question if we would have to be the middleman for any of that communication between our grant administrator to those that.
I'm sorry, you're saying I would be the?
No, I'm saying, you know, if somebody comes to us to, you know, to apply for a demo or a demolition or brownfield grant, are they able to work with the consultant directly?
Exactly. So the intent is they would provide the same services that Diane's providing.
Okay, and then as far as the reporting that Diane does that we so much like, is that something similar that these consultants can provide?
It is, and I
Okay.
kind of gave them the expectations timeline-wise. You know, sometimes these meetings are scheduled ad hoc, so, you know, that's part of the services they need to provide, so.
Yeah, the one thing I did, I agree with Justin. I think CEC was the best. The one thing that they talked about was that they broke it down into three components of their work. Grant reporting, reimbursement requests, and then project management and communication. And the other thing I liked about CEC was that they will do the actual reporting and submitting with the ODOD for reimbursement and the grant reporting. The other two in their write-up said assist the land bank with the reporting, reimbursement requests, and so on. And that's not, you know, that's not what I'm after, because you know, Justin, you or me or Karen or somebody would have to then file the reports and, you know, actually file the reimbursement requests, and that's not what we're asking for.
Sure. One thing I did mention, I kind of gave a breakdown exactly as to what Diane has been doing, just because I've done similar work with the grant reimbursements and whatnot. So I feel like I explained the request overall. It might just be an issue with verbiage in their proposals, but.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Justin, could you confirm with CT that it's not assist, it's produce?
Sure, that's not a problem.
And for whichever one is selected, there are responsibilities that are related to getting ODOD's approval, acceptance and approval. And their responsibility is also to do whatever work it takes to make that happen.
Right.
And then as an observation, I think that, you know, in looking at these, I felt that you know, any of them were capable, more than capable. I kind of looked at CT consultants, you know, I thought just based on price, getting it to price then, if they're willing to commit that they won't assist, they'll produce. And the other thing I asked for, you know, that's the best value for our dollar. The two that, you know, gave us a higher fee, made me kind of wonder whether or not they understood everything that needed to happen. Either that or CT doesn't understand everything that they're buying into, one or the other. And then finally, are any of these local? And by local, I mean within, say, the Columbus metropolitan area, or?
They are. Before I got some of the contacts, Gandy and Associates, again, they're off of 521. Previously, where I've worked, engineering offices have used CT consultants, and they're based out of Dublin. And then civil and environmental I've not worked with in the past, but they have offices in Worthington.
When you worked with CT, was their work acceptable?
I'm not an engineer, but it seemed like the public service staff, both in Marysville and Delaware, liked using them for design work, so.
When you met with CEC, was it, so Commissioner Merrill and I met with, I think his
Brent.
name's Brent, yeah, Brent Smith. So is that who you had?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then I met with Joe Lombardo, and he's based out of the Cleveland area, but they have offices here in Columbus.
Yeah, I think Brent is Worthington or somewhere
Yep.
local.
Jerry?
The only comment I have is assist, or they'll do the work. I think it could be semantics, but I do think if we went with either company that's used the word assist, we need clarification that it's more than assist. Again, I didn't have, other than just meeting the two up there, I can't say I really close enough to it to say one versus the other. You're closer to it. Your recommendation would carry a lot of weight with me.
No, I appreciate it, Commissioner. A few things I did talk to all the consultants about, one on the call. Definitely get them in touch and do kind of a kind of job training with Diane. And I mentioned to them that, you know, she works from home, but she's readily available by Teams. And then we would assist getting them onboarded to the grants portal through the state. That way they can administer the grants too. Price-wise, obviously, CT Consultants was definitely by far the lowest. I found Brent Smith with civil and environmental very knowledgeable. So those are just my observations.
Yeah, I think what I found interesting is all three of them, if you looked at the hourly rate, they were reasonably close. You know, the more senior folks were charging 135, 140.
Right.
The highest was in the 200s. And then the technicians, the administrators were kind of around 100, 98, 90, 80, 90, 100. So I sat back and I was thinking, well, CT's probably going to spend roughly the same amount of time, and if they have the same billing rate, then they're going to have to probably come back to us at some point in the future, because I'm not sure if we awarded them $60,000, they'd be able to work through all the reports and reimbursement requests and so on that are needed.
No, I agree. I noticed their hourly rates are very similar, but their not to exceed is a lot lower.
Yeah.
So that's my only concern
Yeah,
with their pricing.
Yeah, I think, I could see where they could get near a quarter end, and we've got these reports, but we're out of money, we're out of budget. And
Yeah.
we'd have to have an emergency meeting and increase the budget. Because it's not a guarantee not to exceed and do all the work. It's just a not to exceed unless the land bank authorizes more money.
Yeah, each firm did specify these are not fixed rate amounts. It's on a per hourly rate. So whatever they work on, that's what they would charge. It's not, they're definitely going to get $60,000 if that makes sense.
So this is like the average, they think, of the cost to apply for each grant?
Yeah, the
Okay.
nice thing about civil and environmental, they specified, we're going to produce these number of reports at this cost. We're going to do these number of quarterly filings at this cost. So they kind of specified how many hours they're going to use. CT just kind of provided, these are our billable rates and then our not to exceed amounts.
Whichever contract we go with, we're going to have a 30-day out, because these companies are not going to be familiar with us. We didn't have a chance to interview them. So I think we need to have a window that if we're not happy with the services, we can get out of it sooner rather than later. Is that the plan?
That's what I would recommend, Commissioner.
Scott, you're the attorney in the room here, but I think personal services contracts have, by either case law or something, you can give a 30-day notice and be out of them. Is that not correct?
Well, I mean, we can put any provision in there as well, or that we want to. We would just ensure that we have that termination ability to do that.
The other thing that I didn't see where any of them covered it is I would prefer that they attend our meetings so that we can talk to them face to face versus them zooming in or something. And if that needs to be built in, then that needs to be built in, but.
Yeah, we don't know them. That'd be good.
to save money, they could attend virtually
Yeah,
as well.
that's true.
Right. Maybe you want them here, yeah, okay,
I
fine.
want them here,
Okay,
preferably.
I think it'd be whoever we go with, I think at least the first meeting or two until we develop some sort of
Yeah.
relationship would be appropriate. You think they'd want to do that maybe on their own dime just to create the relationship. But I do think there's some logic to having them here at least initially.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I agree.
And if they don't want to do that, then maybe they're not the right company.
I would remind the group, Diane has never been to one of our meetings.
Right.
I will,
She's done a great
But we're
job.
paying a little higher price for this
Yeah, I know.
service. And Diane was known in the sense that she was accountable to,
Yeah, and she
members
had-
of this
she
board.
had a close relationship with Dave Eflin, who oversaw her work and so on, so.
I know from my experience when I was at Deloitte, I didn't do anything on my own dime. Client was paying for it one way or another.
I will say, if they're gonna attend via Zoom, they'll have a billing rate for that.
Be pretty nominal,
I would expect it, I mean, it's part of their effort.
yeah. Yeah, and again, CEC has 25% built in for communication and management. I would think that would fall into that cost umbrella.
Are we gonna defer accepting until Justin can get answers to a couple of those semantics questions?
I would prefer we go ahead, honestly, because Diane we're approaching some deadlines, and Diane is really ready to hand this stuff off. I know she's ready to go.
I'm comfortable as long as we get a 30-day out, and at least there's some dialogue or some opportunity to become acquainted, whether it's the first meeting only or whatever, but I think they'd want to do that, minimum. And I don't have a problem attending every meeting.
There aren't that.
We don't meet that, I was getting ready to say, we don't have that many
There aren't
meetings.
that many, so,
And they are down the road, they're not that far away.
these things, once we get them funded, tend to run themselves, so.
And I'd rather get the right company up front so we're not having to have this conversation in 90 days. And I believe your feeling is you prefer civil and environmental service consultants.
Yeah, I think, like Justin said, I think they've made the best presentation. I mean, I think the other firms are good firms, but I think they understand it. At least they present it in a way that shows us they understand it.
And I was able to talk to Brett throughout the conference, and I know you mentioned the comment on assisting versus doing. I think we need to have a firm that's willing to do it all. And I felt comfortable
That he would,
that
yeah.
they could do it all, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's my expectation. Is
Yeah.
that they're gonna be
We don't have staff
responsible
to
for
assist.
Producing and delivering and
Mhm.
getting DOD buy-off and everything that's related to that, so. Well, we need a motion?
Yeah, I think that's, now, one other thing about CEC is they had a 3% a tech fee.
I'd
Who
have-
does?
CEC has a 3%, I figure with tech and administrative fee or something like that on top of the 80,000.
If I recall, the way Brett worded the proposal, the not to exceed was 82,500, and that should include the 3%. I don't have the proposal on me right now, I apologize.
So you think this includes the 3%?
Yeah, the way the proposal was worded, it was a not to exceed
Okay.
on each grant.
Okay.
So would we be moving forward with selecting and then come back for the agreement, or is that all, can we do that all in one swoop?
I think we can do it. I would prefer we authorize the selection, authorize signing the agreement, and
Okay.
then, and the amount, and then amend the budget. I think those are the,
Conditional on being able to get out in 30 days if we're
Sure,
unhappy at
sure.
some point.
So
With
the
those-
amount would just be accepting their fee schedule, not, because we don't know how much we'll
no,
spend.
they said 82.5, not to exceed 82.5.
And that's an annual basis then?
No, that's for finishing these contracts.
These, okay, so then we'll do another one for the next round?
If there's another round,
Okay,
and there probably will be, certainly on the brownfield, maybe on the demo.
okay.
Yeah, Justin, I would like clarification, because the way I read that paragraph, the paragraph following their committed budget, is that 3% on top of the 82.5? And 10% maybe also, when they go outside.
Maybe what I could do is, if this proposal gets approved, Scott and I can coordinate with Brett on the agreement, maybe, work to get those fees removed at this time, and then revisit that at a future board meeting, if that's okay.
That'd be fine.
Because, most of the costs up front are gonna be onboarding with Diane and then closing out these grants that have already been awarded. They'll probably have some more, ramp-up costs starting in July and August, because we had that second round of demo that got approved, and then we had the 2 brownfields that got approved, so I'm sure we could work with them on that. Are there any other questions?
I guess I think you would prefer answers before we vote, is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I don't want to come back here this time next week.
Well,
to
yeah,
approve it.
that's-
And Jeff raised a good point, we
Yeah.
need to get Diane, let
Right.
her manage her, pulling out of this support.
Right.
And we're gonna be putting effort on her anyway to get these people up to speed, so, I think the sooner we get this started, the better it's gonna be for her.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
And that's my whole point.
I don't
is-
know what it is, but I'd also like that for consideration, not necessarily at this meeting, but the board provides some kind of a recognition of the service she's performed for us. Even if it's just a letter to her and a letter to her boss or something,
Yeah,
that
no, I
recognizes
agree.
what she's done.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I had a conversation with Tom about doing something for her, and he said, great, recognition would be great, but we can't really give her a bonus or
Right.
anything like that. 'Cause- but-
Can't take her to 1808, so there it is.
So am I hearing, with the conditions that were stated by Jeff and my addition of the 30 days, are we good with making the motion to approve civil and environmental consultants? If so, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay. Further discussion, let's just clarify for Scott and Justin, the additional 30-day out, at least attend maybe the first 2 meetings. We could probably build that into, I think virtual is okay. We can set it up so that they don't have to physically come here if they don't want to. But, and then the 3% fee, we will not include that.
Right.
And the 10, get clarification on the 10.
Well, the 10 is if they have reimbursable expenses.
Or use an outside consultant.
Or, yeah. So, in other words, maximum amount, 82.5. And, if they want to use an outside consultant instead of their internal, that's okay, but it's on their dime.
It's on them.
Wait, so you would like to respond, say, we accept these terms with the exception of, we need some clarification or to verify it's not to exceed, and that would include any and all any and all administrative and professional fees. The termination clause that Commissioner Merrill mentioned, you would like them to attend at least the first 2 meetings after the acceptance of the terms. Did you want the response to be that we will not pay the 3% that they've articulated here, or that shall be also included in the not to exceed?
It's in the 82.5.
Yeah.
I guess to confirm that it's in the 82.
Oh, okay, within it, okay.
Yeah.
And then also, clean up the wording so that they understand they're not assisting us, they're
Yeah,
Doing it
developing and,
Yeah.
doing whatever it takes with OD to get approval and
So assuming those criteria can be met, we won't need to meet again. If you bump in the road, we may have to meet again.
yeah, and, if they say, well, we need to think about this, maybe we want to raise our fee to, do we want to say, okay, we could accept an increase in fee for this additional, the cost associated with this change is not to exceed X, or do we just want to stay silent on that?
I think we stay silent.
Yeah, I think,
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they've done these, they know what they're doing, I think.
If I was them and I have an opportunity to get the contract, I would not get caught up in
Yeah,
minutia.
Yeah, I think this will be a good test run for us to wrap up this
Yeah,
round, and, you know, if
exactly.
this is successful, we can,
I
use them
mean, you know,
again,
the reality is they're dealing with process.
very much so.
And once they get to know the people and understand what's required, it should run pretty smoothly, because it's a paper shuffling exercise at that point.
Yeah. And
Justin will
Diane's-
make sure, right?
Diane's got it going smoothly, so.
Just so I'm clear, Justin, was the scope, I'm looking for it right now, this is to, because now we have the 2024-2025 two programs that applications are due when, July?
Those have already been submitted.
Oh, that's,
Yeah.
okay.
They're
But then
being
just-
awarded, I think, in July.
Yeah, round 3 of the brownfield has been legislated and funded, and that's gonna be July, maybe probably even October or November.
Of this
Before
year.
those,
Yeah.
yeah, before those applications are due. So that's not part of the scope of this work.
Okay, right. But then this does not include, or does it include any completion work for, I guess this would be the, what, round one, like the completion work?
Yeah.
Round 1 replacement,
Okay,
yeah, Justin probably
Right,
can.
then, so it does not include any of that, right?
It does.
It does include,
So the way I discussed it with all the vendors is we're trying to transition, and they would take over all of Diane's remaining
everything
work.
she's doing, okay.
And then I explained to them the timelines for round 3 on the brownfield, and then potential round 3 on the demo, and when those might be announced, so. I think even with some, like with CEC, the consultant expressed to me he really wants to try and expand their business in Central Ohio. So he might even be willing to expand this price into round 3 for brownfield and demo.
Yeah, if you're doing a good job, I think
Yeah.
we'd be, certainly willing to consider that.
So,
Yeah.
but as an extension, not under
Yeah.
this contract, but as an
Right, it
extension.
would not
of
be part of this
contract. It
contract.
wouldn't be fair to them to roll a whole new set program into
Right.
this.
But they might be willing, with this 82,500, if they don't use it all, they might be willing to use it towards round 3.
Well, this is a not to exceed, not a fixed fee, so
Right,
Right.
right.
they'll use it.
And we're not looking for a way out of the contract. We just want the peace of mind if things are not as they've been presented.
Right.
We have an out. The goal is we're gonna have a long, successful relationship.
Right. And, again, the demo, round 3, has not been legislated and not been funded. I've been working on Beth Lear, Andy Brenner, Bill Byers, Brian Lorenz, to try to say, hey, round 3, this is doing really good stuff. We really need round 3 of the demo.
yeah, at the end of the conference, they had state representatives, so all of us were eagerly waiting to see if they were gonna say anything, and they
They
did
didn't
not.
talk about it?
Nope.
Okay. Interesting. So,
It was brought up, it was asked, but they didn't have any comments.
well, the 3 legislators I talked to and Bill all recognize that it's a good program and the funding hopefully will be there, and so they were optimistic.
Okay.
Jeff, if you're actively lobbying, and if you haven't, I'd talk to Rick Carpena also.
Yeah, good point. Good
See if you can get the chamber on board, because that
Yeah,
delivers
statewide.
a lot of,
Yeah. It's really very well received across the state. It's not just the urban counties, it's not just the rural counties. I mean, it's across the state. This program's been very good. So, good idea. I'll call Rick. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to retain CEC with those conditions. You good, Scott, with understanding what?
Yes,
And then it'll be up to Scott, Justin presumably, to work out the agreement. I'll sign it. And then, so anyway, that's the motion on the floor. And the discussion. Any further discussion?
do we need to amend the motion not only to accept CEC, but to authorize the chair to execute the contract contingent on these change in?
We need to amend that, Scott? Oh, well, actually, it ought to be chair or vice chair. So we always want to have a backup in case I'm not around or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, to enter into an agreement with CEC, under the terms of their proposal, with the exception of the items that we just articulated.
Right. And authorizing the chair or vice chair to sign.
Yes, that'd be smart, yes.
Okay. Okay, so there we are with the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Okay, we have authorized signing, they're creating the agreement and signing it. Now, Justin, we need to authorize the payments?
You can, that, and then we need to amend the budget for
Yeah.
the awarding of this contract.
Yeah.
For the total amount?
Yes.
Yeah, just by way of information, the total in the budget is about $45,000. I think we'll have spent about 10 of that 45 with Diane's work.
Correct.
And so that leaves, say, 30 to be conservative, and then this agreement is 82.5, so we don't need to appropriate another 82.5.
45 roughly?
50 maybe, well, 50 something.
50.
Do they bill at project completion or like as,
Just,
Ongoing.
if I recall, it was on a monthly basis,
Yeah.
they'll be billing.
And 30 days to pay. That's why I'd like to get authorization to pay it.
Sounds
You know,
good.
Pay the progress payments, because they may not meet again until July.
Let's see,
so,
82.5 minus 30, is that what we think we'll
Yeah,
have left?
I'd say 30, that'll
Yeah,
give us a little bit of
I think
cushion.
we should authorize the treasurer to, well, first, to increase the budget for services by 55,000, and authorize the treasurer to pay the invoices upon acceptance of the work submitted by CEC against this conversation.
Yes.
I'll second.
Up to that amount?
Oh,
Yeah.
No, I'm fine.
Michelle,
Go
got
ahead.
it? Got that, Ally? All right. Okay, any further discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so we've got the contract authorized, again, I'll have to negotiate some more, but, and the signing approved, and then the payment and the budget. So I think we've accomplished everything we need, Justin, you
That's
think?
right, yep.
Good.
I
Scott, anything else from your standpoint?
No.
Okay.
I will note, Commissioner Merrill, in the services agreement that Mr. Hochstetler, and I think he had the assistance of Chris Betts when he formed it, there is a termination clause in there. Unsurprisingly, it doesn't, on at least the county's side, it doesn't require 30 days notice. The county's just simply able to terminate it, I would assume, keeping similar type of language, but perhaps if CEC intends to terminate, then we would want some notice, at least 30 days.
I think we agree with that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we could,
Oh, yeah, hire
yeah.
somebody else,
Yeah,
yeah.
so we could hire somebody else.
Okay.
So I intend to use that and then as our model, and then modify it pursuant to what the board just approved.
Okay. All right, Justin, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Justin,
Thanks for doing all that work.
Thanks.
Work on this.
Okay, any other business? Michelle, Gary, Dave?
I don't have any.
Okay, with no other business, we stand adjourned.